Under the IDA, we have a presentation by Joel Lalone from JCC. And even if, I would like to preempt our meetings when he comes in to give him the time, if we can, to do his presentation for us.
Is he here now?
Not yet.
But if everyone agrees with that.
No problem.
Makes sense.
Okay, thank you. With that, I'll call to order the Jefferson County Local Development Corporation October 4th meeting. We've done our Pledge of Allegiance, privilege of the floor. No one here at this time. We received our minutes from our September 6th and September 25th meetings. I'd entertain a motion for acceptance.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you. Treasurer's report.
So this is looking backwards. It's the 12-month period for last fiscal year. There is slightly more revenue than we projected from our last meeting. We also have about 9% less expenses than we budgeted. So there is essentially an excess, Lyle. I believe this just kind of goes back to, for lack of a better description, general fund. It just goes back to the agencies for use, okay?
Well, we'll have some year-end adjusting entries.
Okay, so this isn't final, but
Not final.
it's a projection that we didn't lose as much as we projected in our last hearing.
It's going to be pretty close.
Okay. The, when you look at the pages 9, 10, and 11, it's blow up of the three larger operating expenses within the three departments that receive funding from within the agency. They're about 50,000. That's where most of the savings are. There's about 50,000 less expenditures when we look at ag, marketing, and safety combined. And again, as Lyle said, there'll probably be some adjustments as we move forward. But
I found an $8,000 yesterday, so
which way?
that'll go in.
Out of the bank account or in the bank account?
Out of the next.
Okay, so we got 42,000 less. Then we go to our balance sheet, page 12. Quick assets, we got about 135,000 higher than prior month. Our accounts receivables are about 121,000 increase. I'm sorry, I might have said that wrong. It's decreased 135,000 from prior month, and it has increased 121,000 from prior month. Our total assets have decreased about 20,000 from prior report. Total assets 21,000 lower than prior report. Total liabilities 33,000 lower than prior report. Total capital is up 11K from our prior report. Total liabilities and capital are down 21K. Page 13 of our packet. These are just the listing of the larger receivable commitments that we've already approved and made. The balance is increased to 123,000, which is kind of a moving target. It adjusts every month. But, so we have a larger balance, which means we have larger AR to receive, and that kind of matches with the AR. This is my treasurer's report. I make a motion to accept as presented.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Questions? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you. Sure.
I could have sat next to Joe. Really? Keep him and Lyle on your tomorrow.
So last month, we talked about creating ad hoc committees. We got communications, alternative energy, and ag. And I'll leave it out there and be looking for volunteers for anyone that wishes to spend more time.
I'll volunteer wherever placed. Let's leave it at that.
Perfect.
Likewise.
Okay.
I like the challenge and I'll learn new things.
You looking for a motion for approval of those three ad hoc committees, David?
Yes, please.
I'll move the creations of the ad hoc committees.
I'll second.
Any further discussion on the motion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries? Thank you. I don't know if our guests are here, but. Governance Committee, page 21 of your package. That was your committee, right?
Right.
Page 21.
Do we find it easier?
Yeah.
The first one we approved. Committee.
Oh, okay.
That's resolution.
What, from our meeting, what was our resolution?
The annual audit, internal
annual
audit
review.
Oh, yeah.
procedure.
Yeah, review of policies.
Okay. For annual, and it's resolution number 1004, 2018-01 for annual internal policy and procedure review.
Right, so we need a motion to approve that?
We need a motion and a second, please.
Well, also move it.
Second.
Any questions with regards to this resolution? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution carries. Thank you. Page 26, we have a proposed sexual harassment policy.
Which the committee did review.
The committee did not review.
That came up
May-
late late
Well,
this
yeah,
week.
let me,
Yeah.
if I may, to tell the board, I sat through a webinar yesterday afternoon. This was a late bloomer. It came to us, I guess it was Tuesday, and I forwarded my initial reactions and then a kind of an update. I've since updated a little bit since then, but after sitting through the webinar, it is clear the easiest thing to do is to adopt as the principle the recommended state DOL format on this issue. So I have modified it. I have brought copies which I'll share with you. We are going to have to go through some training on this issue. We'll have to do that over the next year. Every single employee and every single board member will have to go through the sexual harassment training activities. The Business Council of New York is putting together, and this is all happening kind of on the fly here, is putting together training videos which should enable us all to understand the impact of. We have a policy in place now, as you know. This policy, however, updates what we currently have and is recommended that we approve it. We have to have this policy in place by the 9th of this month. So we are left with virtually no time to study it in any great detail. It has not ostensibly changed from what you saw.
I want,
So-
excuse me, Don, I'm sorry. So we have to adopt a policy in within 5 days. Is that, I was listening to a presentation on this, and that has to do, if we don't adopt it, we have more liability exposure
Yeah,
than.
yeah.
Yeah,
This
as a
is-
practical matter, they just came out with these on October 1st. There's no way employers or municipalities are gonna get this adopted by the 9th because many of them don't even meet by then. So it's ridiculous that they've imposed that deadline.
Yeah,
Isn't there a deadline to the training too, Don?
a year. Yeah, everyone has to
October.
be trained within the anniversary date of the implementation of the policy. And Joe is right. I mean, sitting through this is all part of the Me Too movement, and frankly, I think the governor's trying to get out in front of this as fast as he possibly can. It's very difficult for us to react to something like this. Fortunately, I think the policy is as straightforward as you're going to get. It does not differ in any huge amount from the policy we already have, which is, harassment is against the law. If you are harassed by someone in the operation, You have certain inalienable rights to protest, and those are all spelled out. We have a new policy notice which has to be posted, you know, so we're prepared to accept this, and as Paul says, it's really hard for us to get a lot of time on this. I'm gonna pass along
Adopting it now.
what
No, it's
the
the model,
policy
it's the model one.
as we modified
This
it.
we're in compliance.
So this is the model law, Joe told.
Yes, yep. This is, it is not verbatim, but it's awfully close to it from what
My
the state has
only
recommended.
real question is, I'll move the resolution to adopt the policy. But people like, everyone in New York State, every company is gonna have to adopt
Yeah, I
it.
gotta get this training twice.
If he has, no, do you
No,
have to
you-
get the
no.
training twice?
No, once you undergo the training, as I understand it, the only problem is you have to certify that you've undergone it. I can't accept the fact that Rob says to me, I did it once, I don't need to do
I'll
it
give you a
again.
certificate.
He's gotta get something that says that he's gone through the training.
We already have our training set up at work.
The one difference that I've added on this is, you will see the final page on this is an acknowledgement that people have read the policy and understand it. It's not a requirement, but from the advice the business council is giving, and certainly from common sense, it makes it appealing for us to have an acknowledgement that everyone has read the policy, and we'll put this acknowledgement in their payroll, in their personnel files, so.
Can I ask a question of council?
Sure.
Joe,
Yes,
I know the spirit and intent of our existing policies cover all of this. So is it practical every time the governor barks, we have to actually try to enforce something in 5 days and break our own rules and not go through governance? Should we follow our own practices and go
Well-
through governance and have a recommendation come back through committees?
I understand your point,
And
and
excuse
I,
my rhetoric,
no,
but
and I agree that it's ridiculous to impose that deadline on every employer in New York State.
Yeah.
But there's nothing wrong with adopting this policy, because this is basically verbatim what the model policy they put out.
So we don't have to
So,
really go through committee
I
and back
would-
out to the full board next month?
I
It's not
don't-
really
I don't
breaking
think
the
you can-
intention of our
I
own
don't think
policies?
you need to do that.
Okay. It was more a procedural thing.
I asked-
I hate breaking
Yeah.
our own rules just because somebody wrote a
Somebody
decree.
does.
You know, this is a democracy still, I believe.
I asked Don the same
I don't
question.
know that some days, but
What I
I brought up the same
understood,
question yesterday.
what I understood, the reason to get this in place as soon as you can is to have an affirmative defense should a claim come up
Right.
and you haven't followed it.
That's right.
And it's all for liability exposure that you've done it and you're working your way. And if we haven't learned anything in the last 2 weeks, we need to protect not only ourselves, but our employees on each side of the issue, so.
did you actually move the resolution?
I'll move the resolution less the acknowledgement, because I'm not gonna have time to read this before we adopt it. I mean, if you wanna change the date and
I'll second.
by our next meeting to the date that the acknowledgements have to be signed, I'd prefer to.
I think that once we've read through it, and
Paul, you can,
you're absolutely right.
the date you sign it, you can put,
Okay.
this just
So that's not a
references-
problem?
No, that just references the date you're adopting it.
That, yeah,
I'll restate, I move the policy
I
as
second.
proposed.
all right.
So I have a quick question
Sure.
that relates to all employers. Even for an employer who has one employee, this is still all applicable.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
It's applicable.
But I can take their form, the state's form, adopt it, so I don't have to redevelop anything.
Correct.
Just simply adopt it, and then my employee, my single employee, has got to have training, or he's just got to have the reading? He can read through it, and I check off the fact that he's aware of the
No, he
policy.
has to have the training, and you will as well,
Yeah.
as the employer.
An additional burden on business.
Yeah, well, and
What if you're not an
next
employer?
week,
What if you
the
just have
seminar
another
is on
contract?
the Extended Family
You're not
Leave Act,
employees.
which is causing a significant amount of issues amongst all of us here in this room.
you to ask.
So who's
So,
gonna do all the training? Is that going to?
We'll do the training. What we'll do is
So yeah, I
we'll
think
take
you're
the
talking about
business.
for private.
Yeah.
Private,
Yeah.
go hire a consultant. An additional burden on
The,
business.
the other thing is, if you wanted us to, and this is entirely up to you, and I'm not sure about liability, I've talked with Joe, but we're gonna do this training. If you have one employee, you'd like to have them sit in on this training, you know, that might qualify you for
Is it
having
something
gone
we
through
can do
it.
under the funds that we put in, like the safety training, you know, how we train people for
Exactly. I
businesses?
think we could do
That
it
might be an
for other people.
actual, a good idea
We probably have lots and lots of
to
employers.
utilize the bigger
Exactly
resources
the
around
same
here that
issue.
are already doing the
We
training.
did something
Well, it'll
publicly.
be,
Because there's a lot of small businesses that aren't
well,
gonna afford
that's
this.
right.
I agree.
It's just Add on taxes, add on this, add on, I mean, New York State is just trying like heck to apparently kick everybody out of here.
I would-
Wall Street.
I guess we
I
got
would
to
think-
ask the question.
They're
The
not
question
making your
is,
job
is
easy.
we
It's getting terrible.
enter into a contract.
I would think that maybe
with
we,
an out-of-state
and
employee.
Greg said the same
Do
thing.
they have to-
There's a lot of small employers that aren't able to afford this.
You don't
and
know.
I think it'd be a good thing for our organization
It's not
to
gonna
This
change
is all
that.
brand new.
develop this, reach out and
What
say,
about
here,
if you're a
you know,
broker, you don't
we
have
can
employees?
do this.
They're all independent
Not too much
contractors.
unlike OSHA
I
training.
don't think it applies.
Which is what we
Which we
try
do,
to accomplish.
and it would help,
Still wouldn't
help our
hurt to
farmers,
adopt it,
small
just to
businesses, things
protect
that we're
it.
trying to reach out to.
You know, like Paul said, it's basically
If,
affirmative defense.
your
against it.
permission, once I get a copy of the training they're going to be providing, then I will have some understanding
Sure.
about how comprehensive that is and how it will fit with what we are already currently doing. And then I'll advise the board if you want to offer this training to others. And I'm sure that, you know, Mr. Finn, for example, our new city manager sitting here, he's going to have to go through the same type of training for his employees and so on. So maybe there's some common denominator that we can figure out how to address this and ease the burden of the training. I can't imagine it's going to be too extensive. I'm told it's going to be about an hour each, so we'll have to dedicate employee time for that. So,
Okay.
1 hour. I just think how much that's gonna cost me.
and everybody else.
No, because you gotta pay your employees, what they're
Hey,
taking.
we're putting together some
Oh,
free
I-
training here, so
No, I know, but
take notice of it. Proximity.
Still gotta cover the hour.
I
still
know.
got to cover the hour.
It's ridiculous.
Should we call the
On the
question?
motion to approve the sexual harassment policy. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries? I say approve, I should say adopt. Excuse me.
Yeah.
With that, Don, I understand that our guest speaker's here this morning, and I'd like to preempt our meetings to allow him to give his presentation.
For the last several years, I have had the good fortune of sitting on the JCC Center for Community Studies. And it has been apparent to me that we have not only a valuable, but perhaps to some extent misunderstood asset in the community. And Joel alone has been shepherding this for many years now, since Dick Halpin retired from that position. But what I've learned is that there is a wonderful asset that we probably don't utilize to the extent that it should be. And so I asked Joel and his folks to come in and explain to our board, and we've invited some other guests here this morning, to take a look at what it is that Joel does, the reactions that he gets from his surveys in the community, and how those things might be utilized in our best method to try to govern our communities. And before I turn it over to Joel, for those of you who don't know, I'd like to introduce our new city manager, Mr. Rick Finn, sits in the back here.
Welcome.
Rick had the bad fortune of having to put up with me at lunch the other day, and so we covered a lot of ground. But
Hope you paid for it.
welcome, yeah, yes, I did, actually. Welcome, Rick, and thanks for being here.
Thank you for the invitation. I think this is something that the city's going to be very interested in, and it's close to it. So
I stand. Also, as a guest by invitation is John Johnson, and I think there he is, back in the corner. We're delighted to have John with us. I think it was his father who said many years ago Many of us don't realize what a valuable asset we have in the Center for Community Studies. So we're trying to expose that asset to as many people as we possibly can. So with that, let me turn this over to Mr. Lalone and let him take it from there. Joel, good morning.
Morning, Don. One
Morning,
more
Joel.
click. And what do I have here?
Just the clicker. Just move to,
The click. Oh my God.
move forward.
The famous clicker.
If it was this way in class every day, it'd be hopeless. That'd be, hi, Greg. How are you?
How are
It's
you,
great to
Joel?
see you.
Good to see you again.
There, I think I have everything open that I want. And I was mainly listening, Don, when you just introduced there, but I didn't catch all of it because I was waiting for the pen drive to load. Thank you for welcoming us. Again, I'm Joel Lalone from JCC. This is my 34th year at JCC. This is my 20th year being involved with the Center for Community Studies. I caught Don mentioning Dick Halpin. Dick is actually back. He's the worst retiree I've ever met in my life. That Dick is back unretired again. Some of you might know, back in Watertown helping the Urban Mission folks. We had a meeting Tuesday afternoon that got to see Dick at Garland City. And of course, a line of former students of his saw him, and I love to see that he couldn't remember their names. It gets more challenging, doesn't it, Greg, over as the years go by?
It does. Yeah.
So I've been at the center 20 years, and we've been fortunate to have Larry Danforth, another statistics professor. Larry's from down in the Finger Lakes originally, teaches with me at the college, has all his degrees in statistics, and he, thank goodness, is working along with me at the center. So I thought, Larry, come on. He didn't have a class first thing this morning either, so come on in and meet some folks. So Don told us 15 minutes, which everyone on campus says to me, don't laugh. I mean, I can keep it under 15 minutes. You know, we have a beginning and an end of classes at JCC. I can't go long. The students would just get up and leave. So this morning I got up and threw together some PowerPoint slides, and I just updated Larry and said, I know we can do this in 15 minutes, but just for those of you that are really in a hurry to get somewhere else, we're going to try to do 5 quick things with you this morning. One of them to tell a bit more about the history that just started with the Center for Community Studies. The John Deans, I'm sure most of you know John in here. John is still a brilliant man, of course, who had the idea in '99 along with some of you, some other community leaders, that we have this idea of faculty who have been trained and like to do research, students who it certainly helps them to not have to wait until graduate school to get involved in research, a community that would like to have some nice scientific data to make data-driven decisions, and a college that would like to do some service for the community. So that's, by the way, a talk that Larry and I are going to be giving in Orlando next month, called the win-win-win-win situation, the 4 groups that we think win from the center. I don't think we thought in 1999 it would turn into what it is now. So you're going to see when I open up the Word doc that I just got to open, that Don suggested, or the words I heard from him as I was walking in looking for where's the USB port, made it sound like we were here this morning looking for work. And I think you'll see really quickly, we would not say no to you. We're meeting with Steve Todd right after now with the FDRLO study we're doing. We certainly wouldn't say no, but right now, Greg, if you've got any free time, we might get you back on. We've got a whole lot going on, and we're really thankful for that. In a typical year, we hire about 150 students to work with us on research. I think that number's going to be bigger this year, unless we keep reusing the same students over and over and over. So the 5 things there: the history, the organization, what have we done for past clients. Just going to show you a list. What are we doing right now? Show you a list. If you have any questions, let us know at any point in time. And then finish with, as Don suggested, is there anything else that we could do to help out in the future? So what's our history? What's our organization? What have we done in the past? What are we doing now? What could we potentially do in the future? So I don't trust this.
You don't trust it? Okay.
So the history of the center, we just have a couple of slides that reiterate what I just mentioned. We've done, it's now closer to about 200 community-based studies over the last 20 years. We're housed, of course, up at JCC, and we do our annual surveys of the community that I'm presuming you see covered very well by the local media and used, I hope, by local decision makers like you. Every other year we do the Regional Economic Tracking Survey, and I wouldn't be surprised if that was one of the motivators of why Don invited us this morning, because the every other year, this upcoming spring in April, is when we'll be surveying. So this is the season right now for folks to think about what would you like to learn from some residents in the 3-county region that are economically related variables. We certainly don't just, it's a tracking survey, as you can tell by name, so we try to keep a standard core of variables that we longitudinally assess. But as things change, we certainly also will insert some new time-sensitive ones that have arisen. And then we do additional contracted studies. The methodologies that we use, since we almost always are studying humans, not pieces of paper, not brake valves like next door, we're studying humans. So we have to look at what's the best methodology to answer the research questions you have from the population that we're looking at. And yesterday afternoon, you're going to see on the agenda that I put up, we met with a group from Jefferson County Social Services Youth Bureau. And Larry, I would say in my 20-plus years of doing this, that was probably one of the most interesting meetings that we've sat in on in terms of difficult to access population. They, in a nutshell, would like us to help them learn more about unwanted pregnancies amongst the LGBTQ youth community in Jefferson County. There are many factors on here that you need to consider, along with confidentiality, anonymity, and honesty and validity and all of these things. It's what makes doing this research so much fun. It's not just a boilerplate each time. So this is a bit about our history, what we've evolved throughout the 20 years into doing. That's me, Larry, the two people. We are the Center for Community Studies. We have great support from Dr. Stone and Mr. Finch and everyone else on campus, but as much as the bricks and mortar are my office and the math department. That's what the Center for Community Studies is. It's a people thing, it's a technology thing, it's a math geek thing. It's not a building thing. We'd like a building, I suppose, but we don't have one right now. And I would be remiss if I didn't mention how this is going to transition to part two. That was the history there. Here comes how are we funded and organized. Here's the organization. We have a board of directors who we met Tuesday afternoon. And Don is on it, and I don't know if I have it. David is on it, and I don't know if I have any other board members here. But we try to represent all sectors of the Northern New York community on our board, including a student on our board, even though right now we haven't picked that one. And we are funded by, I'm a math professor and he's a math professor, so that's how his salary and benefits are paid, as are mine. We still teach classes, but the 150 students that we hire each year have to be paid somehow. And the college does have it, they fund us some. About 15 years ago, Car Freshener gave a donation to the college as an endowment fund, and it's done what, at least from my point of view, and I'm not the business guy, but an endowment fund is supposed to do. It still has the entire principal, and we spend the proceeds each year to help fund it. And then annually, the Development Authority and the Northern New York Community Foundation sponsor. So we get a contribution, a generous contribution from each of those to help us offset the costs that are involved in these survey research projects. Most of our projects do involve, not all, but most of them involve, we have a call center in downtown Watertown, very well hidden. I doubt any of you know where it is. I've never seen it before, and I'm not going to tell you where it is. We keep it secret where our students show up. We have great privacy. We have 30 cubicles, 30 phones, 30 laptops, kitchen, men's room, ladies' room too. What more do we need? And we have privacy, and I am sure, raise of hands, who in here has been called by us before? Only one? Two? The rest of you screen your calls too, okay? We have very charming, very effective, very well-trained students that want to talk to you and want your contribution. Your opinions and behaviors matter. So that's our funding and our organization. Again, we're very, very fortunate. Larry and I spoke in Denver a year ago, November, with that win-win-win-win situation to an audience that you might think, Kent definitely would think, would be the definition of going to hell or something. 1,500 math professors. Lots of fun. 1,500 math professors. But what we spoke to them about was, this is what we do. His name was John Deans, and he was brilliant. And he came up with this idea, and it works. But we also realized, I have not seen, have you, Larry, another one that's replicated it?
No, not even close.
We try to encourage our colleagues throughout the country to replicate this, and one of the big reasons I'm sure why they can't replicate it is, well, you know, honestly, how many people have two-year college faculty that go out and do statistical research like he and I? Probably not all that many, but that's not they're smart people, they can learn. The probably largest thing is how many are in a community that would set up a funding situation where we can do it and not have to be stressed with me meeting with Jimmy Schell yesterday about the unwanted pregnancies in the LGBTQ youth community and me having to throw him a number that's scary that they can't afford. Now, obviously, we don't do these things for free because there's overhead that has to be paid, but we can do it in a very affordable way relative to other options because of the generous contributions we have. So I feel like I checked that box well. And I got the organization and the funding. So what remains is, what have we done? What are we doing now? And what do you have as questions and questions that we might be able to answer that we could do in the future? So I'm looking for an escape key. Is there a keyboard with this thing? Or is there another way? Okay. So that I can go to, I guess I'll cross my fingers and hope. I really do have internet access here? Okay. All right. That keyboard, yeah, Larry. There is no better person to go to a meeting with than Larry Danforth, because he will figure out how to go to the JCC website. And it's called team teaching right here. He's got the keyboard and I have the mouse. This is the high-tech stuff we do at JCC. And I'm sure it drives him nuts to watch me have the mouse. So I don't know if you've ever been to our website, and if you have been to our website, if you've ever been to our JCC, if you've ever been to the Center for Community Studies website, but if you go to our website, there's more detail on the history and the vision and the mission and so on that I was talking about. And to contact us, you'll see it's the same two pictures. I right-click, copy, right-click, paste in PowerPoint. There's the board of directors that I was talking to you about that you'll see Don and David on there and other folks, and John Deans and Dick Halpin and so on, and Denise Young and past people who've been involved with us. But the reason I wanted to go to our website is Tyree. That's using intercept methodology at the Lady Antebellum concert, doing economic impact study on behalf of Joe Rich and the DPAO. And do you recognize who that other person is who's right there, who was intercept surveying for us? Our former president, Carol. She was not good. We had to supervise her. She ended up at Coleman's and said, I want to interview her. I am not making this up. Am I lying? Yeah. I look at him and does anybody in here know Marie Hess? That was our, good methodology. If you're going to throw people into a tailgate situation to interview folks, you put them in pairs. So here, who volunteers to pair up? Dr. Marie Hess and Dr. Carol McCoy. They disappear. They show back up after an hour. They'd gone to Coleman's, and they decided their methodology was going to be interview the people who were at the Coleman's that were going to go to the concert. Throw that data out, Carol. So anyways, this is what I'll shut up and just scroll through. This is not sorted in any particular order, certainly not alphabetical. It's probably slightly chronological, but there's hardly a sector in the Jefferson, Lewis, St. Lawrence County region that you could come up with. And I could tell a story about every one of those studies. Town of Gregg, Town of Watson. I feel like I have great friends over there now with a comprehensive planning study that they did. The WPBS, Larry did that study for the folks there. That's our only study we've ever done that was international. Who would have thought that people in Canada will pick up their phones and give interviews? They did. Who would have thought there's a place in Texas that I can buy every single phone number from the province of Ontario? There is. Fort Drum, and so what I want to let you know is, as Don was saying, I hope that Don was wrong when I walked in and heard him say, I think this is an under-recognized and under-known entity. I'm hoping you all know, not who I am, but you know Dick Halpin and John Deans and the Center for Community Studies, I hope. But if you are right, then we wanted to show you today, this is item number 3 on the list. What have we done in the past? Item number 4 on the list is this was our agenda from Tuesday afternoon, and C through I are current studies that we're doing right now. So we're doing our 12th annual survey of the community in Lewis County that we do every year in October. That's coming up soon. FDRLO has hired us to do a study of attitudes, opinions, satisfaction, suggestions, perceived barriers, perceived importances, and all of these social scientist things amongst parents who have active military in the household, and they currently have K-12 children in their household. And we're also going to be surveying ones who've been moved to other military installations that recent past were at Fort Drum. So that's going to be an online methodology. Katie Malinowski and the folks of the Tug Hill Commission found, I don't know, maybe under a dusty pile on a shelf, hopefully not, a study that we did for them in 2009 a landowner and resident survey of the Tug Hill region in those 6 cogs. And they've decided a decade has gone by, and they'd like to have it revisited, so we'll be doing a study for the Tug Hill Commission. Just met with Kevin Jordan and Stephanie Graff from Cornell Cooperative Extension, and they have a Campo Basso study. Again, we did a study for them in 2002. It's the reason why Dick Halpin left JCC, because he did such a nice job on the study. They liked the study, and then they made him an offer he couldn't refuse and stole him away from us. And I've never forgiven them, but they came back, and this one, that's the key word in there. They'd like us to do a market study. They really are interested at price point things and so on. Different methodologies, sophisticated math, neat things. Sounds like we need Greg on that one. We are doing our own client on that one. Jefferson Community College is factual. I don't think I'm saying any dirty laundry if I spit the things out here. We typically bring in about 1,100 students as a first-time, full-time cohort in the fall. So you take a look the next fall, and you'd hope you have 1,100 sophomores. But of course, that's not what really happens. And what really happens is about 30% of them, about 1/3 of them, are in good academic standing, did not transfer elsewhere, because you can search a global warehouse database and find out any college in the United States. About 1 out of every 3 of them did not flunk out, did not transfer, did not come back. So everybody has a theory on what did they do. So we did a study this summer on what are they doing, and we identified, ran the most sophisticated modeling he and I have, look at 50 different potential explanatory variables. What's the model that best predicts membership into, are you a persister, you come back, or are you a non-persister? Well, we have another cohort coming along, so they want us to do a second iteration of this one and try to help us at the college. It's great if we recruit and get, exploding enrollment with new students, but we certainly ought to pay attention to how do we best serve and continue with the ones that we have. And I applaud Dr. Stone, because she's the one, actually on the front lawn of my house. I'm mowing the lawn, she pulled her car up next to it and said, Joel, I got a study I want us to do. So this one is on top on behalf of our president. And then next spring, believe it or not, the 20th annual year in Jefferson County. If you want to put a question on that survey, jlalone@sunyjefferson.edu. We pride ourselves. Our friends in Lewis County are the best. Nothing against the Jefferson County folks in this room, but you're not as good as our Lewis County folks. They have committee meetings, and they work really hard at constructing survey questions that they know they're going to use those survey questions to make decisions in the future in Lewis County. And we hope to continue to improve and do that in Jefferson County. It's not just at the county level. We've done some for the city of Watertown. What we do in each year on these surveys is we usually have, how many would you guess questions come from people that?
8 to 12.
Typical survey is about 50 questions. So somewhere 8 to 12 of them are ones that are brand new questions to somebody in the community, whether it's Friends of Thompson Park, whether it's, who else is a recent one that's put one on there for us?
We did ones for the water table.
Oh, that was Soil Conservation Group.
Conservation, yeah.
Yes. So anyways, we invite you, if you want to not contract with the study for us, but become involved in one of our standardized ones, to feel free to email us. And then there's what I mentioned about the Regional Economic Tracking Survey. So back to the beginning, my 5, we talked to you quickly about our history, quickly about our funding, quickly about that big list on our website of all the groups we've worked for, quickly about, that's current, and I don't know how Larry and I are going to pull that all off in this next year, other than we work a lot of nights and weekends. But we enjoy it. We really enjoy doing this. There's something about working at an institution where you get to help the community where you are and get to do what you actually teach yeah, we're going to go down to Orlando and talk about it. And lip service is really cheap. The people there will come to us and say, here's my card, and email me this and that. But they need to take those next steps and have good support and leadership and interest. Don, it's wonderful that you're interested enough to invite us to come here today. Because otherwise we sit in our little math geek office and analyze databases. So lastly, by the way, the potential studies, this is the one I was talking yesterday with Jimmy Schell for the youth community. The Urban Mission has talked to us about a study, if they get funded, about recently released from prison individuals who are released into Watertown. And Urban Mission has some plans for some new evidence-based interventions, so they want us to be the independent unbiased evaluator of pre, post, did their interventions work? And that's you, that we are here. And that's Orlando. And the last thing I want to finish with is this. I don't know whether it's worthwhile today or not. I'm probably already over time. Where's my mouse? But just if any of you, if we've, all right, if any of you, we have motivated any real curiosity with what we're all about at the center. It's probably too small for you to see in the back, but what I was hoping you would see, and I'm sorry for those of you in the back, is that list of 14 things over there on the left. Thanks, Larry.
Notice he puts this narrative in an Excel format as opposed to a Word document. Please, everybody take note of that.
I can't help it. The math geeks are always looking at you use an application, it's not just Word. So anyways, what do we do at the center? That list of 14 things is what we do. With a typical client, we start out with, what do you want to learn at the end that you don't know now? And then we have to go through the exercises of what are your population? What is your population or populations? What are the variables? What's the right methodology? All the way down through to things like what are particular confidentiality, anonymity issues? Should there be rewards and incentives involved? What is the level of rigor of analysis you want? Do you want some certain type of deliverable? And what's the timing? And then number 14 is always the fun, awkward one. Who's going to pull the trigger first? We have to talk a little bit about how much does this cost. All I'm saying is that's the rubric, that's the model that Larry and I'm sure it's not unique to us. I'm sure if you went to Zogby Analytics now, if you went to any other community-based research group, they follow the same thing, and that's what we used with Jimmy yesterday and said, what is the population? What do you want to learn? What are the variables? How do you access? How do you get participation? What would be the level of rigor of statistics that we apply that's a waste of time because the audience doesn't understand it versus a level of rigor that's useful and applicable? So I have no idea how long we went, but I think we're at the point of questions and answers, unless, I know I've stolen it from you, but this was make sure everybody realizes that we have a succession plan. Whether he wants to resist or not is up to him, but we have a succession plan at the center. And so do you have any? Have we done what you wanted done?
Absolutely dead on, Joel.
Okay.
One of the reasons that I had hoped you would come over this morning is that in my view, the community has to do a better job of strategically thinking about its future. What are the issues that we are going to have to face as a community in the next 5 and 10 years and so on? In other words, let's project what it is that we're going to have to address as leaders in government and education and all others. How can the information that you are collecting through your studies be better utilized in planting, if you will, the seed of what those strategic thinking aspects ought to be?
Was that a question or was that a statement? I'm not sure.
Forgive me, I wanted to make a statement.
Okay. That's what I thought it was. I thought it was. Yes.
What is the role the Center for Community Studies can play in this strategic aspect?
I believe the role would be what I attempted to try to organize for you today. We like nothing better than, sometimes it's challenging, sometimes we fully know that we can't be an expert in public health at the same time as being an expert in education, at the same time as being an expert in military issues, at the same time as being an expert in economic development. It's impossible. So we always have to tap on subject area experts as we go along and work on some of these. But what we are presumably experts in is that list of 14 things. That list of helping people frame their ideas of what are your research questions. And then realizing you have to operationalize it. We can't just walk out that door right now and say, I am going to study homelessness. How? What? In what way? What are your goals? What are your objectives? What are the variables? How do you intend to use it? Do you intend to use the data at the end to apply for a grant, to advocate, to educate, to evaluate? There are all these different things. So what we feel that we are good at is being those very systematic, linear thinking math geeks that we are, that use Excel for everything, even agendas. And the other agenda, did you notice, was in Word? The one that I showed that had, let's see, I have multiple skills here. But anyways, I could see our role being very willing to sit down and chat with you, and we're not gonna walk into the room and know the answers first. What in the world I had no idea what Jimmy Shell really wanted to learn. And we pride ourselves in looking across the table and saying, are you hearing what I hear, and what's your thought? And this one, as you can probably already tell, tends to be not quite as talkative as me. We'll be in meetings, and I'll look at him and go, Larry, I know there's a lot going on in that brain right now. I want to know what's going on. I'll have to pull it out of him. But by the way, the next meeting we go to with Steve Todd, it's all you.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be the one sitting there quiet, because he's riding point on the
I find that hard
FDRLO
to
stuff.
believe.
It will. I'm going to sit there and be a note taker. He hasn't known you as long as I have. So back to answering your question, I believe that our role would be, you come to us with some concept of what you want to learn, whether it's the biggest issue you're facing. And then it's not an easy. Anyone who says to me the following tells me what they don't think they're telling me. Anybody who says writing a survey is easy tells me they've never written a good survey. It is not an easy exercise. Anybody who says taking a sample is simple, just go take a sample, tells me they haven't done scientific sampling. So we like to sit and crack that nut, or the 14 different nuts, with proofs and find out what's the best way to do it. Fully well knowing there's no such thing as perfect research. Fully well knowing when you get to the end, he and I look at it and go, ooh, if we had to do it over again, what will we change? That's the nature, and that's what keeps it fun of studying humans, not studying brake belts next door. Even though the inner diameter of that boring is a very important, interesting thing to them, it's not so interesting to all of you around this table. Yes?
To duplicate this to some of the other people, to your colleges across the country, is phenomenal. The stumbling block, I assume, is monetary. What's your budget? You get all this done on a budget of roughly what? That's the amazing thing, I think, this kind of a service.
I would say that our budget, I've never been asked that question, but let me answer it and then you say you forgot this. The Development Authority generously gives us $15,000 a year. The Northern New York Community Foundation generously gives us $2,000 a year. So we have $17,000 a year that comes in, that pretty much exclusively goes to local pizza joints, the place where we lease the call center, and student payroll. We use a payroll company. So we try to break even on all of that, and then he and I are paid as professors. So that's one of the key things, is that you have to have leadership at the college and at the county level that say, we're going to pay you as a professor. And so it doesn't end up being a part of the budget of the center, and we get a load reduction. So there is real cost with that, in that they had to hire an adjunct to replace a course that I don't teach. But it's certainly a way lesser cost. All of the other contracted ones, our leadership, whether it was John Deans, Joe Olson, Carol McCoy, or Ty Stone, have all said, just get them to cover the cost. So those are basically just get them to cover one another. So I would say the studies that we do, that we give to the community, that there is no invoice that goes to anyone, run on roughly college's contribution, along with those two, maybe $25,000 a year. Well, we might not bring that much in, but we've got the endowment fund that the proceeds can pay from. So that's something I can write down on a napkin for a college president and another college, but it takes commitment and interest in it too. And John Deans was a social scientist, is a social scientist. Wouldn't you concur? You were there during those times.
I was.
It was his burning desire to see it happen. It was him accepting the Shapiro Award and saying to the media, we're going to create this thing, and then being held accountable.
Yeah.
Thank God he said that. I'm just a benefactor of it. I came along and was a math geek trained, but it's kept me at JCC for 34 years because it's really enjoyable. I think there's more Larry and Joels at other colleges for faculty that would do it. So I think you're probably right. The biggest obstacle is they think it would be really expensive, and they don't have leadership at the top that that's a priority. That'd be my guess. How about you? Do you think there's anything else in there that's...
I think the other thing they don't have is they don't have the community buy-in necessarily. It's the community has to buy in, and our community has, where I know that we've talked to some of the others. You've talked to people at Dutchess Community College. I've talked to people at Erie Community College, and at Erie, their issue is with so many colleges in Buffalo, they really struggle that, they have so many small communities. They don't have the community buy-in.
Oh, the same thing, when I went to Poughkeepsie, I met with the president of Dutchess Community College and her main math professor, the three of us in her office, complete buy-in, but you all know what's in Poughkeepsie along with Dutchess Community College, Marist. So if they look at the groups like you in Dutchess County, they're gonna want Marist to be sitting there at the end of the table, not Dutchess Community College. John Dean saw it, that we're the only, I mean, there's online survey, or there's online colleges now, but they didn't exist in 1999. We were the only show in town. The number he always said was 57 miles. I'm assuming that's Oswego. He said that we're the only college within 57 miles. Oh, that's right, on Google Map it, and you can see. Dutchess doesn't have that, Erie doesn't have that. So that's a really good point he makes, that we kind of fell into. And your other point was a really good one too. If we didn't have the Don Alexanders of the community, we would have long since become irrelevant. Not to our students. Our students, it's going to affect regardless of whether I come here today or not. You know, yesterday I recruited students. This is my last thing I'll say unless you ask another question. Yesterday was my day of recruiting students in class to work on the Lewis County study. And I said, I offer you 6 things like no other professor will. I offer you, I told them how much per hour. I offered them $13 an hour. That's what we pay them. Why? Because they're giving up other jobs and calling in to come work for us. We free food. The call center's full of pizza and pasta subs all the time. I said, I also offer you a chance to build your resume in a way that you haven't before now. And I offer you a chance for a letter of recommendation because I'll write you. And I opened up the folder on my pen drive of the hundreds of letters of recommendation I've written. I said, I also offer you fun because you're with 30 people all listening to the greatest one-liners from Lewis County that people say on the phone. And then the 6th one is probably what motivates them the most, and that is there's a bonus point situation in there for coming and doing it on productivity. But I finished with this. I said I was just the good cop. I offered you money, food, letter of recommendation, resume builder, fun, and bonus points. I said in Joel's perfect world, in my perfect world, there would be reverse paycheck. If you say you're going to show up and don't show up, cut me a check. If you reverse 428 Flower Ave West, deliver the pizza to my house. I'll write a letter of recommendation that says really what you did. Put on your resume, I signed up to work for the center, but I blew it off. So I was the bad cop of my students. And I even said reverse bonus points. I'll take points off your last exam. Why did I do this? Because we're teaching our students responsibility and commitment to the college, to me, to the community in a way that I believe I couldn't teach in my class if I didn't have the center. And guess what? They all sign up, it's in the next room, and they all show up. So yeah, I think we could do that, but I don't know that we'd be at a place like this if we didn't have buy-in from people like you. So we appreciate it.
Joel, Larry, thank you so much for being with us this morning. And again, you know, sometimes when we sit and we try to measure the assets the community has when we're comparing ourselves with other, this is one of those extremely valuable assets that may not necessarily hit the top of the list. Well, it should, because it presents opportunities for us to understand our community better than most any other community in New York, if not the United States. And so it's a valuable asset. That's the reason I'm encouraging opportunities for these guys to show up and do their thing. I would hope all of us would take what we've learned this morning and think about how it might be applicable to what we're doing, whatever it is we're doing. And these guys have always been available to us, and we thank you so much for that. I appreciate your good work. I think you're unsung heroes, in my opinion.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Any other quick questions for the gentleman?
I've got a confession to make to him.
Oh, boy.
No one was probably more responsible for pulling Dick away from your group than I was. And if you ask Dick, he'll tell you that. And you know, it wasn't the money.
He just likes challenges.
Right.
Well, it's our pleasure to be here.
Thank you. Thanks.
Yeah. Jay's got a list of 51 questions.
Already.
Being ejected by Philadelphia at this point, probably.
Well, you're my pleasure.
I'm gonna have to leave.
I agree.
Yeah, should be.
Happy to help.
So long.
I screw up the meeting schedules this time.
It's important stuff.
Okay. Back on schedule. Personnel Committee. Yeah, we'll go to page 35. Okay, we have resolution number 1004, 2018.02 to establish percentage of profit share for the year ending 9/30/18 employees.
I make a motion.
I have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
And for information, it's a 3% contribution to their retirement plan. Questions or concerns on the resolution? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution carries. I have resolution number 1004, 2018.03. It's a resolution for the CEO salary increase of 2%. I entertain a motion and a second on this
I'll make a
resolution.
motion as presented.
Second.
All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Thank you. Lisa, nominating committee.
Okay, so, the slate of officers that we have for this next coming year, we have Dave Converse as chairman. Vice chair would be Ed Waldriff, treasurer Rob Aliasso, and secretary would be Kent Burdo. And the nominating committee proposes that to move forward, so I would like somebody to motion for that.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Resolution 1004, 2018.04 for the election of officers. Is there any other nominations? With that, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed?
Mr. Chairman, can I ask you a question about, I don't know if it falls under this, in the minutes they talked about the vacancy on this board, and I thought there was a names that was put
Yes.
forward for
To the
consideration.
IDA.
That's
In
done
the
at the
IDA
IDA
board
level?
packet.
It ended up in the...
Well, it's in the IDA board packet, because doesn't the IDA appoint the LDC, or?
Yes.
does it-
The
Okay,
IDA.
'cause it's
Yeah,
in the-
so it's coming
the
up.
open
LDC.
positions is in the
Correct,
IDA.
Correct,
packet.
yes.
So that's done at that board level?
Yes.
And, yeah, she agreed.
That's why it's there.
Very good.
Very good. We did take a vote, right?
We did.
I believe so. No one
No, pardon me.
withdrew their name.
Council reports on manufacturing. Marshall? Dave?
We've got
Oh, I'm
manufacturing
sorry.
day planned for October 12th. We've got about 16 or so manufacturers participating, well, about 17 in the whole three regions, but a number of them from Western County. We've got 30 schools and just shy of 1,000 students participating in this year, so it's going to be another big year for tourism. Appreciate the fact that Great Lakes is going to be there. We've got Allied Motion, Current Applications, Rock Industries, New York Air Brake, Multi Technology, a number of them are opening for tourism this year. It's great. Dave, and really, last year we doubled, going from 400 students to 1,000 students, so we're seeing, again, level this year than last year. And just a good way to promote those manufacturing careers to youth, and realize those good career opportunities there. It's an area that across the country that their manufacturers have a hard time filling vacancies because of lack of people skills or anything.
Questions for Dave? Marshall sneak out again? Jay? Jay here. Marshall.
Yes. I know we have lots of stuff going on. I'm gonna cede my time. I have a update. I will email it to all of you. There's some things I'd like some feedback on. And I will also be sure to CC the media on that if there's anything specifically. I did make those changes in the video that you had suggested regarding the script. I think I got one other piece of input, and I think I also added that, but there was two of them on yours. And also my stuff is, I had to dig it out back there. So again, I will send you guys an update, email any feedback, and I'll CC the media as well. And anybody else that wants to know anything about marketing, my office is right over there, we can talk. So, thank you.
Jay.
Hello, sir. For folks who don't know me, I'm Jay Madison. I'm the agricultural coordinator here in the office. Sent a memo to the board members, 3 different requests. We're going to be submitting grant applications with your approval. The first is to apply for funding to assist in the development of a professional business plan and economic impact statement as we're moving our USDA meat processing project forward. There's a small fund. It's a very easy fund to apply for. We'd like to hire a consultant to help us put together the business plan and economic impact statement so that it is presentable to others in the community and beyond to gain support for the USDA meat processing plan. So that is the first proposal. Do you want me to handle questions on a project by project basis or just go through to the end?
Yeah.
Okay, so any questions from board members on the first grant application?
What's the status of that? Is they had a survey, didn't they do a?
Sure, we are in the final completion of the feasibility study that the consultants are done. And when I say we, it is Mike Lundy who is the project developer. It's his feasibility study. We're just assisting. The feasibility study is basically done. There's some opportunities that have arisen with that project that we are incorporating into that are making it more interesting. And we need to do the business plan and economic impact statement, which will utilize that feasibility study and put it into a format that will be presentable to the public.
I know I asked you a question when we spoke. The feasibility study, we're going to be given kind of the Cliff Notes version of it. I think you said we're not going to get the whole thing, which I understand.
Right, it's a proprietary piece.
It's privately funded, I get that, but
Yeah.
we will get sort of the Cliff Notes version and not just
Yeah.
word of mouth.
As best I can. I will do the best I can to provide you as much information as possible. Again, as you stated, it's not our property, but I will provide you
I
as
get
much
it.
as I
That's
can.
been my only concern with this whole process
Right.
from the beginning. We're partners, but we're silent and uninformed many times.
Well,
That's my opinion.
yeah, I agree.
It's my opinion. It's
Yeah.
not necessarily fact.
Right. We're assisting a private developer with his project, so.
Fair enough.
and-
I trust your good judgment. Boy Scout
Oh,
of America.
Rob, I don't know.
Hey, you're.
Let the
Thank you.
minutes reflect that, will you?
I will try
I
not
trust
to.
everybody.
I will try
Until I'm
not
burned.
to damage that trust,
Yeah.
so, thank you. Any other questions on that particular grant application?
Thank you. No.
I'd just like to point out that it was very nice that you called around and those people that have heard me complain, I thought that was great to come into this meeting with advance information on what we're considering. We've had a chance to ask those questions because I asked some questions that you couldn't answer because they're confidential.
Right.
So I think that was a great effort you put forward to keep us informed in advance.
It was.
Jay.
It's good to answer some questions ahead of time.
Are you looking for individual motions for
I
grants,
think
or you want to do them
I
as a
think we'll do them
package?
as a package,
Okay.
unless there's a.
Wouldn't you say, Jay, coming back to the proprietary nature of the $45,000 study, as this moves forward, any of us in this room to dwell into that study with specific questions, that information can be shared.
It's a it's a proprietary feasibility
But
study.
he's certainly gonna wanna share most of that, you know, good and bad with us to move this thing forward.
On an individual basis, I'm sure he'd be willing to share some of the
I would
information.
assume that at such time when he's looking for either bonding or incentives from this organization, that he'll have to share with us what we asked for so we can delve into it.
Yeah.
And yes, a lot of that's gonna be in the confidential nature of things.
Yeah, that's proprietary, what executive session.
So, but, I mean, I had the same concern. Jay answered those questions more than adequately.
May I move on to the next?
Please.
Okay, so the next one is an application, working with Great Lakes Cheese Company here in Adams. We have an opportunity to apply for funding, to do a project that's something that I've wanted to do here in Jefferson County for quite some time and never been able to find a funding source for it. In partnership with Great Lakes Cheese, we'd like to apply for a $5,000 grant to develop a promotional video, if you will, that tells the story of our local dairy industry, something that will appeal to the consumer, reassure them about the safety and health benefits of our dairy products produced here in the North Country, and also encourage them to, of course, consume more cheese and milk and ice cream, which everybody should do. So we're in the process of developing that proposal. It is something that the funders have indicated Great Lakes Cheese and Jefferson County Local Development Corporation could apply together, but they're indicating that it would be good to have Great Lakes Cheese name on the application, John, so that we, you know, the opportunity to receive that funding is greater. Any questions on that?
Great idea.
Thank you very much. Okay, the next proposal is basically the same funding source. With this one, we would include New York State, the Northeast, oh boy, forgive me, I'm under the weather today. Northeast Dairy Foods Association, they would like to partner with Great Lakes Cheese and our agency. There's a real need to develop more materials to recruit young people into dairy manufacturing. And because of our particular expertise in this office in promotional materials, videos, and so on, they were already planning to reach out to us. John and I have sort of preempted them and are proposing to work with them to put together a video that we can go to schools with to appeal to young people to, to consider careers in dairy manufacturing. The partnership would be, we would do the video, they will develop a website that will mirror the video, and the website would be a lot like we've done with GPS for Success. There would be a variety of resources on there that would help students looking for these opportunities to figure out what schools to go to, what types of skills they should have, what to expect when they graduate from college, and so on. Northeast Dairy Foods, I cannot believe I can't remember that name. Northeast Dairy Foods Association would do the website portion, we would do the video portion. All of it would be on public domain, YouTube, and the website obviously would be public. We want to get it out to as many people as possible. So that would be the third grant that we would apply for, and those would be produced locally with a local entity that does a very good job of producing videos of that nature. Any questions? John's going to be a big star when we're all done.
That's your SAG contract.
Talent fees.
Union scale.
Hollywood.
John could be the voiceover.
Well, I think it's a great opportunity for the concept that we're trying to do here. I mean, it's really to get consumer confidence back in the dairy industry, to consume more products, whether it's whole milk, whether it's our milk, whether it's cheese, whatever the dairy component, because there's certain parts of the segment of the industry is just tailing off, and we've got to get that turned around somehow. And think it's a great idea that Jay has come up with, try and turn this if we can, in Jefferson County, but this goes really across the nation as far as that goes, but it's a great opportunity. And then I think the other side is we're trying to stimulate, employment opportunities, and then, the dairy industry is not just milking cows. There's a lot of high-tech industry anymore. We're trying to get that message across to some of these young students to get them interested in manufacturing or in dairy industry in general. I mean, even the farm side, there's a lot of technology on there that was never there before, and I don't think kids know about that.
The other thing to consider in this, although it's not as critical, the reason to apply, well, it is that these become pieces that will have Jefferson County, obviously will be a big part of those videos. So in our marketing efforts to attract more companies here to Jefferson County, it's just that one little extra piece of the puzzle that we put in place that, raises the prominence of Jefferson County as the place to come to when you're talking about the dairy industry.
We're trying to also implement the quality of life concept that we talked about at our forum before, and trying to incorporate that in this video as Jefferson County is a, preferred place to live, so to speak. So that's another segment we want to get brought into.
I make a motion we apply for all 3 grants as outlined by Jay.
Second.
Further questions or discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thanks, Jay.
Thank you very much, and if anybody has any other questions on the trade agreements and so on, don't hesitate to give me a shout, trying to figure it all out as we go. Thank you very much.
Unfinished business, Don, for the LDC. Counselor.
I have nothing for this meeting, but I would like to take the opportunity, Dave, to introduce my partner, Connie Kale. Connie's here for the IDA meeting.
Okay, good morning.
She's a resident in our Albany office, represents several IDAs throughout the state, and she's going to be the heading a project team for the Long Falls bond issue. So.
Okay, very good. Welcome. Did you just drive in from Albany?
I was in Syracuse yesterday.
Okay.
So.
You said there had been an early morning.
Yeah, very early. Yeah.
Dan, we have a charge off for administrative services, billing to in-kind services.
We
Or
charge,
is
at
that-
the end of the year, we've been charging this off to in-kind services. Which I
Okay.
think we're approved to do. And the details on page 14 at the bottom. For a bunch of invoices.
I didn't take.
I make a motion to accept it as presented by, in our board packets.
I'll second that.
Questions? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Anything else for the LDC meeting? Yes, Dave.
I just want to update the board, the award that each year there's a regional council competition across the state, the award get announced in December. Just yesterday, the report was released for the North Country Region, Regional Economic Development Council. And this is progress report that gets submitted to the governor's office for review, and that kind of helps determine that along with the progress on the projects the last year in the region, covering our 7-county region, covering here in Plattsburgh, basis for how much each region gets awarded. But I'll send you all links so you can see it, but mentioned there is progress with current applications in North American States. A couple projects we helped with funding for the process in the past. Easy Stack is mentioned there, the Canadian company that we recruited vocational down here in our corporate park this past year. The Ag Park has mentioned the section in agriculture. And each year the region identifies priority projects. I mean, it's not all only priority projects that get funding by the state, but it does, they can award up to 20 points. So out of the 17 projects that got the full 20 points in the region, 5 of them in Jefferson County. Bridges Hospital, the Criteria Hospital got a $3 million recommended award. YMCA, you've heard about the Downtown Aquatic Center, that got 3.2. These are recommendations. The state is still responsible for 80% of the scoring, so this bodes well, but it doesn't guarantee funding.
Sure.
River Hospital, Mount Spig is recommended for 1.8. JRC, do an expansion there to help expand their daycare opportunities, which will help people trying to work and find daycare. And then Patty Hill Hydroponic Farm with Acadia Energy that we work with on our microgrid. They got a recommended award, $800,000 for their project out in Prattville. So,
How many projects were reviewed? 4 went forward, how many were looked at?
from the county or
From Jefferson County.
I'm not sure how many all went from Jefferson County, but I'm guessing it had to be at least a dozen or so more
That were
projects.
considered,
Yeah.
and these were the
And,
top.
and yeah, these are top ones, but again, I mean, the regional council award basically 5, 10, 15, or 20. So, and the majority of projects that do get funding are not priority projects, because they're kind of a select few. So even if you're not a priority project, doesn't mean you're not gonna get funding. There's still opportunity there. You may have got 15 points and you don't see that, because a lot of that scoring is done, privately by the council. But that would make the region a significant project. So we've had projects get funded before that weren't priority projects. We've had pretty good luck bringing priority projects forward.
So,
But I think overall across the region, probably around 150, 160 projects submitted.
so the whole region, what was our share of the pie? Did we
Well,
have
out of
50
the 17 priority projects, 5 of them are from Jefferson County.
No, but as a region,
I don't know,
dollar
I
amount.
won't see all that until they release the
they don't
award.
have it yet,
Yeah.
okay. All right.
Make the motion to adjourn.
Not quite yet.
Oh,
I got a couple
foiled
things.
again.
A reminder to get back to Peggy with Audit and Governance Committee for the 11th. Anyone that can
Board
do that.
evaluations, everyone?
And the board evaluations, please get those filled out if you have not done so, and get those back to Peggy. Definitely before the 11th, because she's got to tally those. Now I'll take your motion.
I will make a motion to adjourn the
Second.
LDC hearing.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, we stand adjourned. Thank you.